I am a fool. That is one thing for certain. Hi, this is a call to action video. I just did a podcast with Bill Genovese, and we cover a really important topic I think that everybody should be thinking about. This topic is, I believe, creating a lot of dysfunction in our relationships, and it's driving the fear rates up. And as fear drives up, then we have more conflict in society, crime rates go up, and things are just generally deteriorating because the fear rate is going up. And I believe that as you watch this interview and how it unfolds, think about what you're doing in your own life. So I would love for you to reach out to me. I have some solutions in mind. I'm going to make a follow-up video where I have some solutions that I believe are or could be applied, but I'm not the only one living here, right? You all are living here with me, and why else would I want to live here? I want you to live with me. So with that, I'll let you watch the video. Hey, my name is Brian Curtis, and I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems. And today I've got Bill Genovese. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
That's correct, 100%. You got it.
And you are an advisory person. You were telling me a little bit about your company. Could you maybe repeat a little bit what you told me, and then maybe how you got there?
Yeah, I'm a CIO advisory partner with a company called Kyndryl. Now, first of all, on the title, I get a lot of inquiries on LinkedIn. People not taking more than I think 5-10 seconds to really read my bio and see what I do at Kyndryl in that role, but they automatically assume I'm advising the CIO of Kyndryl, okay, as a partner in an advisory capacity to our CIO. No, that's not necessarily true, not directly.
Okay.
We have may have some indirect influence and channel to him, but we advise, my practice area advises enterprise CIOs on their technology strategy, and I would say also we're growing our capacity and capability in business technology strategy, okay, which reflects what's going on with the CIO role out there right now. Okay, I mean, historically and typically the CIO is relegated to behind the data center wall with the CTO,
Sure.
you know, and now they're being involved in much more interlock and decisions around business and technology and that alignment, especially in context to large scale digital transformation that's been fueled even further by the pandemic that we're pretty much exiting now. So,
Yeah, in the last 3 years, it's been just exponential growth for software. So I'm sure there's a need just to get people pointed in the right direction. You could just kind of be all over the place and just spending way too much money on software than you need anyway, right?
yeah, well, exactly. And regard, it starts with software, then invariably all roads kind of lead to some fork where you have to make a decision as a CIO and with your company on your cloud strategy. Okay, the days of buying software, getting a software license for a physical installation on a number of workstations is pretty much over. We're in the SaaS, software as a service model, for
Right.
quite some time now. Or companies are buying software from a software vendor, business software. Can it be hosted in AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform? What's the client or CIO's cloud strategy? Where are they on their cloud journey? Okay, there's not too many enterprises left that haven't done anything with cloud. So to some capacity, many companies or most are working with those big three cloud vendors. So instead of us getting in there and talking to the CIO and talking individual product strategy for infrastructure or data center, or even starting to talk about, well, I've got this business software application, where should I put it on what product? We invariably start talking about cloud strategy because that's really where the beginning place is in 2022. Okay, in support of digital transformation. Then you'll kind of get into discussions around architecture, okay, and the best fit, with that cloud provider. And then invariably it may get into product replacement or selection. But we're out of the days, at least in my company, my industry, area for the most part, not talking about individual infrastructure products so much anymore. So, I mean, we'll get into, since we come from IBM, we'll get into discussions. Well, I'm paying IBM a ton of money to get off the mainframe. Can I get into something smaller, more agile, where I can move stuff off the mainframe in my data center, that's killing me in costs and move more to the cloud. So we do mainframe modernization services or migration to AWS, Azure, and GCP. And we're in a unique position because we are born out of IBM, but we're not mandated to work directly with IBM because we're not an IBM subsidiary company. We're independent. We
Independent,
have,
right?
yeah. So
So
that
I'll ask you this question. Go ahead.
no, I just said that's going to close by saying that puts us in a great spot. So, we can compete with IBM, we can collaborate with IBM, we can cooperate with IBM.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you this specific question. Do you think there's a resistance to moving to Web3? Because Web3 is a whole new kind of cloud, decentralized cloud-based platform. Is there just a worry about, let's say, security risks by moving things to Web3?
I'll put it to you this way. This is kind of my perspective on this. I mean, the internet was born. It didn't have a lot of standards and qualifications and certifications around it from a technology and usage perspective. And when I say, usage perspective, that covers security. Okay. So as it's evolved, the internet, it has become, more hardened, for lack of a better word, more
Sure.
structured, more technology standards and consortiums of companies shaping that. I mean, ICAAN out of California, they're an industry body for the internet. Okay. Now, where I'm kind of going with this is it's still not fully baked. Okay. I mean, you wouldn't be turning on the news and finding out about ransomware and backdoor entrance and all kinds of things, or the dark web.
Right.
Okay. All this stuff if it was fully baked. So that's opened up the door to the progression, many different schools of thought on Web 2, Web 3. I heard Jack Dorsey mention, well, we're going straight to Web 6. What the hell is Web 6?
I know nobody's defined that one yet, right?
So my point is, I've done a bit of research on Web 3, but it has not been blessed in terms of standardization. So it's wide open to interpretation on what it really is. Okay, at this point, saying it another way, will the internet evolve, become more hardened, become more mature, and be the next generation? You can call it what you want, Web 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, sure, it will. Okay. And the aspect I get from Web 3, okay, that I like, but I haven't, completely drank the Kool-Aid yet, is there's a convergence of emerging technology that's going to fuel it. Okay. That's part of my thesis and my strategy in the industry vertical I work, and I call it next generation digital financial services. And in a nutshell, Brian, what that kind of means is you're not using just blockchain. You're not using just AI. You're not using just IoT. And even further, you're not just going to use quantum computing. These technologies in a basket will converge to start to blow out Web3. There'll be more use cases, more application. Okay. Um, you're going to need that higher compute at the foundation layer. So that's why there's been a lot of hype, investment, and fueling of quantum computing right now by a lot of major companies too.
Right.
Okay. Um, the difference too with Web3, at least in how it's kind of positioned, explained, okay, and hyped to a large extent too, is the access layer, the interface layer between the human and quote unquote via Web3 doors, okay, into alternate metaverse worlds, virtual real estate, what have you, all part of the Web3 use case basket, some of them anyway. Okay, that interface is going to change to allow us to opt into, I predict anyway, or feel, opt into different forms of information that we want. So in other words, we're not going to have 80 or 90 applications on our phone. Okay. And I lived in China for 4 years and I saw what happened with WeChat. Okay. And
Right.
everything goes through WeChat. Payments. I mean, you live your whole life on WeChat. We're not China.
Right.
Okay. We
Oh,
didn't
there's so
come.
many apps out there. Yeah, it's
I
ridiculous.
mean, exactly. I can't, I'm a bit of a critic on the super app concept in the United States or the Western societies. I don't think it'll ever happen. We're too bought in and too anchored to, those 3 or 5 apps that we like. Okay, and the market share for each of those is what it is, and they're not going to converge. Okay, in terms of those business models, because they weren't born from the ground up like WeChat, all in
Right.
one. But anyway, where I'm going is the access interface layer. If you want to, you get up in the morning, you shave for your first meeting, your first Zoom meeting, and you want to opt in and see, well, I've got to go pick up my son later. What's the weather going to be like outside? Okay. And no, I don't want a full blown, I've got to scroll down for 15 minutes in CNN online to see what's going on in the news. CNN's kind of taking the next first step on this. What are the 5 most important things you want to hear every morning? Okay. So they do have that section at the top. What I'm saying is that bathroom mirror, that interface, is going to be powered by open standards underneath it. And then depending on the hardware device manufacturer, their proposed market share, they will opt in to certain feeds of information. Okay, that'll be provided by a common middle layer in terms of standards for the internet. And that could be Web3. Okay. So you opt in. I'm shaving. I just want to, out of the glance of my eye, with one eye, I've got to shave. I don't want to nick my face. What's the weather like? What are the top 3 stories? One line each. That's it.
Yeah, you bring up a very interesting subject, because this is the highlight of why I think Web3 is so important. I don't think, for as much as all of us are using cloud-based software, you're not going to run into anybody anymore that's connected with the real world now that isn't using some kind of cloud-based software. Everybody's using it, right? But I don't think it's healthy to have 3 companies in the world that are controlling all the cloud-based information. So if I get hooked up to a network, let's say, if like you said, or insinuated, that I'm getting my information off of my mirror in the morning. If I'm getting it off of 3 main companies in the world and they control all the information, that's not a healthy environment for anybody, right? You really have to
Right.
have some kind of decentralized information network that's not controlled by any one entity. Who wants to live in a society where 3 corporations can control all the information, right?
Right. I mean, and there's another concept coming up through traditional IT, okay, and data integration and data management that was popularized in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And it's called an ESB, an enterprise service bus. Okay. So an enterprise service bus pulls from the various applications from a business perspective and IT applications in an enterprise and serves up, quote unquote, data or information to the lines of business that they're only interested in and they can only have rights to see or manage or manipulate. Okay. So it's almost like, Web3 will have some type of enterprise data bus or service bus layer. Okay. Connected to various applications. Okay. And hardware manufacturers. But that's very, very critical. That interface piece, okay, in my view anyway, needs to be based on open standards.
Right.
Okay, because the consumer, like I said, I'm all for us having a smart mirror if it's cheap, or it's even or even if it's a commodity. You go into Lowe's, you're redoing your bathroom. We have smart mirrors all over the place. We got 5 manufacturers that do them, depending on what you want. Okay, or a smart appliance. I mean, Samsung already has these with the refrigerators, and they can tell you when to restock. So what I'm saying is, and to your point, this layer has to sit on top of that Web3 information service bus. Okay, and it kind of provides off ramps depending on the device, what you, Brian, want to see where. Not everything everywhere. I don't want to watch 300 channels on my refrigerator.
Exactly. I want to be selected, right? I want to say, hey, I want to follow this channel, this channel, this channel, maybe have, the things that I'm interested in pop up. Yeah. I don't think that's a difficult thing to integrate, but still
No,
it's like,
the problem, it's not right. I don't think it is either necessarily. The problem is scale, okay, and contextualization and management of that contextualization. Okay. But the bigger problem is commercialization models and business models.
exactly.
You know,
How are you
and
gonna
fighting. and
Exactly.
fighting the big three cloud providers. Is AWS going to own this? Is Microsoft going to own this? Is Google going to own this?
Well, yeah, and what you get when they're selling it to you is you're going to get advertising. You're going to get
Yep.
nonstop advertising that you don't want. You know, I mean, that's the difference, right? You're just
The
you're
closest, right, and the closest analogy to commercialization and data pipeline and value chain that I have in my mind that just popped in is Amazon. Okay, I am patterned behaviorally right now. Anything in my life almost, I reach for the phone and instinctually, does Amazon have it? Okay, I mean,
yeah,
and it could be my wife gives me hell, well, the Dollar Tree down the road might have that. Dollar General or the Dollar Tree. Well, that means I got to get off my ass and get in my car and go get it when I have time. I've got meetings all day, or I got to pick my son up and then get back home for another meeting. Google it on Amazon. Boom, they have it from 6 different sellers. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah, and we should not be. And I mean, yeah, I'm sure you're aware of it. We're behavior modeling not only people over 18, but people under 18, which is very unhealthy, right? I don't think it's from a just a moral standpoint. Why are we allowing our major corporations to morally degrade our kids? And the social dilemma, in the last 15 years, it's very well recorded that the suicide rate is going up because kids are getting disconnected, because they're getting pulled into their phones, specifically because they're getting advertised to by the big, these big players.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. That's kind of a double-edged sword or positive negative view for me. Like I mentioned, before the podcast, a little bit background. I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old boys. Okay,
mhm,
these two boys are always wrestling, fighting each other, tug of wars for the various toy that one grabs, and just because one grabbed it, the other has to have it. There's no other reason. Okay, this goes on with my wife's cell phone. Okay, we've been Apple fans since release one. Okay, I
sure,
mean, so we have every version of the iPhone, and so she's got two. One was an older one, last model, and then she's got the new model. Okay, do you think she uses the phones? No. Where are they? The 3-year-old and the 6-year-old are constantly fighting over who has the phone, so they can watch their children's programming on YouTube.
right,
Okay. And it's to the point where it's like, well, the same content is on our smart TV over Xfinity internet, so I can get YouTube children's programming, but it's the behavior to psychologically already planted, probably reinforced by myself and my wife, to go to the brick. You
right,
want anything, you want anything, you go to the brick. And that's why I'm saying the brick, the iPhone, the Samsung Galaxy, behaviorally, that is the access point now as the internet has evolved. Okay, that's the other key thing, key observation about technology. Every time that there's been a major shift in growth and scale in internet technology, it's been through the combination of power or compute, okay, moving faster, more. We all know the difference between dial up. Remember the days of dial up and AOL?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. and,
I'm that
and, and
old, yeah.
yeah, and how we can, it's to the point now, regardless of the cable provider, somebody's trying to sell you ultra internet speed. There's no difference anymore between that and fiber and everything else. I mean, it's evolved that much. Where I was going though, the other big shift has been through the interface of consumption. Well, when you had dial up, I was carrying around a Motorola first generation phone, that weighed three pounds and was like a huge walkie talkie. I was in the industry at that point. Okay. And can I receive content on my mobile phone? No. Okay. It was a novelty. Oh, cool. I can make a call from the car and call my mom. I'm talking to you on my mobile phone. Really? What's that?
Yeah.
Versus now, everything is shifted in terms of our attention and stickiness only through this.
Yeah, well, they're messing with everybody's dopamine levels. From an early age, you're getting your dopamine levels messed with that didn't happen to you and I when we were that age, right? I mean, to a certain extent, you could say that, maybe some of the children's programming maybe we saw was, messing with our dopamine levels somewhat, and we were addicted to TV in some ways, but not as much. I mean, when I was younger, I was outside all the time, right? I mean, I just
Exactly.
playing outside all the time, doing more outside. Now, just the way gaming is, and find a 15-year-old kid that is outside playing with his friends all the time. If he is, he's probably on Pokemon Go with his phone, looking for Pokemon outside. They're not like playing on swing sets or, and it really degrades interpersonal relationships, right? Yeah, I mean, I've had this problem with my daughter just sitting down when she first got her phone, when she was in her early 20s, sitting down to have a regular dinner with her. She's on her phone, she's not having a conversation with me. Our relationship isn't growing. Her relationship is with her phone. And it's just like that, that trend is not helping our society. You're seeing people pull away. COVID was a really good example.
I agree. Unfortunately, it's affected my relationships with my parents who are older in their 80s. Okay. And it gets to the point sometimes. My mom, she puts up signs and demands that anybody that comes visits her from the family put the phones in a basket by the front door.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah,
know, 'cause-
that's a good policy too. It's like those things away, especially for Thanksgiving, right? People show up for Thanksgiving and everybody's sitting around looking at their phone. And then the whole purpose of Thanksgiving isn't even about the food, right? It's just about spending time with your family that maybe you haven't seen for a long time and hearing about their stories and what they're going through. I mean,
right. The other aspect or observation of all of what you're talking about, we all have family group chats on SMS, so you set up a group chat, a
yeah,
couple of aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever. Okay. Invariably, and all of those people in those group networks have their own families. They're not part of your primary family. So your aunt and uncle are not part of your primary family.
sure.
Okay. So there's no specific contextualization for text in terms of what you're communicating. Everything's taken literally. You know this. You get a text
Yeah.
message. Can you react to that in a positive or negative sense? No, you react to what you're reading, and sometimes you may react negatively. Sometimes, like, what do you mean? What are you saying here? And that goes out in the family group chat, and people are starting like, well, why are they bickering about? I mean, it, if I was in front of my mom or dad, and the same question or point was asked with nonverbal communication clues, body tone, gestures, other outside factors off the brick, the interplay and conversation may be completely different.
Yeah. So the bigger question, and this is something that I've thought about because I've been, starting a business here in the last 12 months, and me being in front of this computer, I think has been worse for me than anything that I mean, it's like, this is how you're starting a business now. And I'm sitting in front of a terminal. For me personally, I've gotten to the point where it's just like, you know what, I would rather just be out talking to people, giving a seminar somewhere than like,
Absolutely.
I don't want to sit here and sell SaaS software all day long. I don't want to sit here and just wait for my next Zoom meeting. I want to be in a group somewhere, changing the world or doing what we want to do, right? And I don't, do we want to end up in cubicles, like the Matrix? Because that's where we're headed right now, where everybody's just plugged into a device and the way they get a hold of each other is through a piece of technology. I don't think that's healthy at all. There's got to be some kind of balance.
Yeah. You got to be a middle ground. I agree. I mean, case in point, my company is pretty much remote 100%. Okay. I have a home office, quote unquote, home office, from the company. It's in Coral Gables down near Miami. I'm 4.5 hours driving away from that, probably an hour and a half flight. So I don't go down to that office. I haven't been into it since I started with the company 6 months ago. Okay. But, the company has started to schedule company-wide summits. We had our first one in Atlanta. Okay. About a month, 90 days after I started. So you start with a group of people remotely, okay, and you're all kind of, sizing each other up.
Right.
Who's going to be my 2-on-2 buddy in this?
Right.
In this who do I got to watch my back, and who do I approach with wide open arms? Okay, and that's reinforced, and it starts foundationally in Zoom meetings and interactions through email, occasional phone call. Okay, Microsoft Teams, what have you. But then you go to that summit and you see your whole team for the first time, and any impressions, positive, negative, or lukewarm, are flipped.
Yeah, you have no idea who's who, or you just had a couple of Zoom meetings with them, right? I mean,
Right. I mean, or it could be, you've had 4 months of Zoom meetings and, a dozen Zoom meeting calls. And that interaction through that access point, that interface has been reinforced behaviorally to you creating a judgment. Okay. And this goes back to your preliminary podcast that you had me watch on YouTube.
sure.
I don't forget how long it was, 30 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like you kind of throw up this gauntlet, okay, based on the information that's being disseminated to you through one pipe.
Exactly.
Okay. And you're like, I don't know this person, but my vibe is getting disturbed. Okay. I gotta watch, I gotta watch him or her. Then you go to an event that's a social event, more information dissemination that you can analyze, nonverbal cues when you meet the person. Okay. You know this too. Behaviorally, people open up more in person, or they
Oh
close
yeah.
down. They either open up more or they close down more. Okay, right away what your interaction is going to be with them. Okay, they're either going to, over the course of 5-10 minutes, 1 or 2 beers, even once, they're going to open up. They're going to
10
open up
beers.
more.
Yeah.
They're going to open up more. They're going to say, oh, I got to go to the restroom. I'll be right back. And you don't see them again. I mean, but the point is, that whole thing has been flipped for me so many times I can't, count. So,
Well, I've experienced that personally. There's people that I met a year ago, and then our relationships, just because of how, we're all selling services to each other, and people just kind of pull apart naturally if you're in the middle of this technology interface, and that's the only way you're interacting. You'll just naturally, slowly, kind of, just in my experience, slowly pull apart unless you're actively together doing stuff together. Now your relationship's growing because you're depending on each other for your day-to-day activities. It's not just, you're not really depending on one another when you're just meeting every once in a while on an interface. It's
yeah,
totally different.
yeah, yeah. So, definitely. I mean, and that goes back to, kind of the broader discussion we're having. Okay. We've kind of grown up in, how we're getting information and interacting with other human beings. Okay. It's not really at this point too, where we're kind of having a wide selection of interfaces to contextualize and personalize how we interact with people. It's kind of being shaped by default mob behavior. Okay. First it was the internet and email. Okay. You've got mail, that whole explosion. Okay. Then it became the smartphone and text and FaceTime occasionally. Okay. But in a business setting now, it's Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, or Zoom, like we're having a call. Okay. And then people fall into the behavioral pattern. That's the default way to interact. Okay. And it's like, given the opportunity, you could live across the street, you could live across town. Hey, Brian, do you want to go meet for a coffee physically and have this discussion and you take notes? Or do you want to do a Zoom call?
I want to go meet you and have coffee, for me
Well, yeah,
personally.
but what I'm posing is behaviorally, we've been shaped. A lot of people don't want to get out of the chair, even
Yeah.
though you live across town. I prefer to have a Zoom call.
Well, if,
And
if you want to record it and put it online, like I'm going to do here, right?
yeah,
Then that's
no,
what
but
you're going to do. Or
yeah, no, yeah, you get my point though. It's like it's not like we're not shaping our own behavior psychology wise. We're being influenced by hardware and software. Okay. And then kind of mob mentality in terms of scaling and it taking off and exploding, you know. I bought Zoom at I think 80 or $90 a share, you know, and then I made like a 3x profit and got out of it, you know, but I still should have, I kicked myself a bit for,
Like all
not
the
staying in.
Netflix people, right? After
Yeah.
Netflix first blew up. So this is something, and this is a trend, and this is something that I thought about a lot recently in the last 2 weeks, because I've come to a lot greater understanding of myself and how, your amount of vulnerability and how much you're opening up to the people around you is really how much you're being able to fulfill yourself personally. Well, this technology that we're using is separating people in a way where you're not able to establish relationships like you normally could organically in the old ways. And so all that does is bring a larger barrier, which creates more fear. And now you're seeing more fear globally. And you're seeing in every single city structure in America and probably almost every country, crime rates are going up. As the fear rate goes up, crime rates goes up because people start getting worried about, they don't trust each other, right? Fear is just it's the one-on-one between crime and fear. As fear goes up, crime goes up because people are afraid of lack. People start stealing from each other. I went into a community, and I live outside of Tri-Cities in Washington State, and I just went into a community that I hadn't been in about 5 years, and I was blown away as how much that community has changed in the last 4 to 5 years, just because of, people are separated. COVID created separation, which creates more fear, more conflict, and crime goes up. So if this trend continues the way it is going right now, the cities will collapse at some point. City structures will collapse. There's no question about it. So there has to be some kind of reversing trend in order for that to not happen. I mean, I don't see any way around it.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but if you're aware of it, if you want to create enough awareness in the community, say, hey, you guys need to get out more, right, and start interacting more.
I mean, there's once again, it's not all bad, okay, in terms of what you're saying. And, I've had a bit of I wouldn't go so far as to say strongly love-hate relationship with Facebook. Okay. But, I would say like and hate relationship with Facebook.
Right.
And I've had a profile since the early days, but it's kind of turned on, but I don't interact with it. Okay. Because all it took me was, 5 or 10 minutes when I did replug back in to see what was up, political discourse and debates and, all kinds of negativity and fraud and fake profiles and, all kinds of weird stuff. But I've kind of, gravitated a bit back to it. One of my hobbies is fitness and running again. I ran quite a bit competitively years ago, and I'm starting again the past 2 years since living in Florida. And there was a fundraiser on there, run or jog 30 miles in the month of November. Okay. You monitor your own progress, but you attach a fundraiser to it, and it's for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So real good, and it's encouraging because it's almost like a community of people that are trying to do this. It's no big deal. I mean, you run a mile a day, or 2 miles for 15 days, and you get it done. Most people will beat that. That are in shape anyway. But people are posting pictures of themselves, a treadmill, whatever application they're using to track their distance. They're giving daily updates. So that's very positive.
Oh yeah.
Okay. It influences you to keep competing. Okay. But the whole sport of running is you against you. Okay. Any true runner knows this. You're not competing against anybody else. Even in a competitive race,
Yeah,
you're
it doesn't
you're
matter
trying.
what sport you're talking about, you're always competing against yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be a better performing athlete. I want to break 30 minutes in a 5K this year. I'm getting closer and closer. Okay, yeah, it gets me upset that, the top three guys in my age group are still, are one place, 1, 2, 3 are under 25 minutes, and then I'm coming in fourth because I'm right around 30. So I've got to break that barrier. So, from that sense, they fuel me in terms of my behavior. Okay. When I'm competitively competing against them, but it's still me against me in terms of my goals. Okay. And that kind of goes back to your prelim video on YouTube. Okay. When you open yourself up to that way of thinking, that you're not constantly sizing every data input around your environment from a human being as competitive or non-competitive, right? Or
Hmm.
adversarial or non-adversarial. Life changes. I mean, to me, running has opened my eyes to this. Okay, I'm much more positive, optimistic, and it's like I could have the shittiest day. Pardon my English. You may need to edit that out, but with work or competing with colleagues directly and indirectly, or sales not happening, whatever. Okay, I go out and bang out 2 to 3 miles on the treadmill, and then have a 5K or two after that the next couple of days. I don't care. It's like,
Exactly. It's all
damn,
part of a process, right? Who
right,
cares how you did one day? It doesn't matter.
right. Yeah, but a lot of people, there's something in running, the endorphin that kind of releases that, you're looking outside yourself more, and it's all good. So that was what kind of struck me in your preliminary video there that I picked up on too. So
Which video was that specifically? May I ask?
you had it on YouTube. It was kind of, you sent out the link and said, well, preparing for our chat. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You know,
it could have been on my channel somewhere. I was just
yeah,
curious if you remembered. I mean,
yeah.
I've made some short videos on there, and
You made it
my
recently.
subjects are very varied, so I talk about
It
just
was,
about everything.
it was as of Sunday. I think the date was Sunday. You put it out there.
Yeah, Sunday. Yeah, I had a kind of a call to action on Sunday. There's a realization I think coming, and I've realized this in my personal relationships where if people aren't opening up to each other, and just like in homeless communities, like I said in that video, you can throw as much money as you want to that homeless community, and it's just going to tear itself apart. But if you can get everybody to start serving each other and not being afraid of each other, then you could create a city, right?
Yeah,
Fear
yeah,
is what collapses society every time,
yeah,
every time. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Bill. Well, thanks for joining me. Unless you got a story for me, I haven't gotten a really good story from you. Maybe like a success story. I don't know. Anything you want to share?
No, it's been a number of them. I think one broad overarching theme has been that's influenced me in my journey, and also opening up in terms of mindset, tied back to the overall underlying current here is working and living in different cultures and countries. Okay, and knocking down information fueled biases that overwhelm us. Okay. And the greatest example I have of that is living in China for 4 years and working in China for 4 years. And probably one of the hottest points of our relationship with China reigniting itself really badly. So I worked for the company Huawei, okay, that was at the crosshairs of the United States and the Trump administration. Okay. And I led global banking and financial market strategy development for that industry vertical in our corporate strategy group at headquarters, because we wanted to play more in that space. And based on the tech that they had, they should have. It was the only company that makes the mobile device with an AI chip, supports the internet with 5G, okay, and traditional networking technology and products, data center, cloud, and it has the consumer division as well, and technology services for all verticals. So nobody else on the planet was doing this, and I saw a lot of capability for us to kind of weave that together holistically, so we're not four independent businesses and go after financial services. Again, the strategy I developed was to pivot us more horizontal, like an Amazon, because we own the edge in terms of the device and all the compute power on the edge. We own the networking, okay, own the infrastructure, make service storage, and we have cloud. All the pieces are there for that value chain. So move more in support of mobile financial services, okay, from edge all the way back into the data center. And slowly the company moved in that direction. But right at the height of that pivot, our CFO got arrested.
Oh no.
in Canada. I mean, I remember this, and the timing couldn't have been, more perfect, because I just opened up a relationship with one of the biggest Swiss banks in the world to work closer with us. Their equity research division came to our headquarters, and I gave a pitch on our strategy and what we saw in the industry, and they were blown away. The director's like, I'm going to bring my boss up, for his reports. And we had another repeat session. And right in the midst of all of that, new relationship, senior level people, I'm sitting down to breakfast in Hong Kong with him. And he said, yeah, this is great. We want to keep working with you guys, but can you tell me what just happened with your CFO? She's been arrested. I didn't know anything about that. I'm not sitting down with the CFO.
Right.
I'm not sitting down with the Chinese CFO of the company as an American, sharing what's going on with any of this stuff. I was outwardly facing, working with clients, right, on our strategy development. So I say this story because, ironically, I was on my way the next week to go to London for an award ceremony for leadership and banking technology strategy. And this event just happens. Okay. And I asked my boss, do I go? And he said, Bill, well, did you have anything with her getting arrested? No. Well, then you
And she,
got to go. You
and
got
she
to
was
go.
still in the clink. She wasn't released.
Well, she couldn't leave Canada, and this dragged on for 2 or 3 years, and I think finally she did get released, and the US dropped it. But anyway, I mean, I went to the event, and 300 people in tuxes. I had to get a tux and everything. And invariably I knew the questions were going to come. Who do you work for when you introduce yourself at the dinner table? It's all catered and everything. 15 categories for leadership in the industry. And you start explaining, oh, you work for that company. Didn't your CFO just get arrested? But I bring this story up. So regardless, I didn't win the award. Okay. I think
Right.
current events influence people.
Oh,
And
definitely.
many of these people have never been on a plane to visit China, and they're influenced. It's the big boogeyman. Okay. Or they remember one trip to the Great Wall 15 years ago, and maybe they mixed in a business meeting or two. Okay. And that's their impression of living and working in China. Okay. So what I'm saying is, macrocosm wise, working and living in different cultures, okay, and going in there as a chameleon and adapting and observing and listening and opening up and not going in like this. I'm surrounded by
Exactly.
people that may attack me.
Yeah, they're not trying to attack you. They're waiting to see what your response is. That's what they're
Mhm.
waiting to see. If you're accepting of their culture, and
Yeah.
if you accept them, then they're going to accept you. Right? It's just, yeah, exactly.
So, that's been definitely the story I can kind of leave you with, is that evolution of my thinking and changing personally and professionally to open up more to different points of view, to get out of quote unquote Western patterns of thinking and reaction. Okay. And, adopt a different mindset that's more global. Okay. And,
Yeah, if you
you
can
know,
adopt a holistic mindset, it will open up your ideas and just the way you look at the world a lot differently. You'll see yourself a lot more in it, right? Because
yeah.
you're not trying to confine yourself into some kind of idealism or just personality, personal type. Awesome. Thanks, Bill.
No problem. Enjoyed the discussion.
Yeah, this is a really good discussion. It's a really important one. People really need to think about how much time they're spending in front of their computer and how much there's time they're spending with each other, right? I mean, that's the ultimate object of what we're going through, and make sure they're breaking down their fears, right? Don't be afraid. Just open yourself up.
Yeah.